Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Mike here at Game From Scratch, and today we are looking at something called Core, which just entered into open alpha. Now Core is a game engine of sorts, but it's also a platform. The closest thing I can think of, this is sort of like Roblox meets Second Life meets Unreal Engine meets Fortnite, I guess. It's about as close as I could go. And yeah, it's a game engine that is built on top of the Unreal Engine game engine. The entire idea is for this to be an all-in-one environment for you to go ahead and create and publish your game. So that's kind of the downside here. If you want to publish, you're publishing it in Core. Now, there are going to be ways to monetize your game. They are coming soon. But right now, it is basically a sandbox for game creation. But the nice thing is, it's actually really quite polished. So I'm not going to get into the Core game side of things. You can come here to the Core website, available at coregames.com. I will link that in the linked article down below. And you come in here and you can actually look at the games that other people have created, go in and play them. Same way you can publish your own game and have other people come and try it out. But the entire idea here is basically this is going to be a future portal for games made using Core. So let's jump in, take a look at Core itself from a game engine perspective. Now, as I mentioned earlier on, this is built on top of Unreal Engine, and I have to say it's actually incredibly polished. So here we are in one of the examples. This is the VFX example. And I'm in kind of editor mode right now, so you can kind of walk around, take a look. This is sort of to walk you through how special effects work. But it gives you kind of an idea of what Core is capable of doing. And then when you're ready to go ahead and check it out, so here is one of the special effects in action. We'll just go ahead, hit the play icon, and then boom, it's going to load it up. We're going to see a bit of the world. You can choose your avatar. Your avatar is going to be what you use between various different games. So you see here, you've got different options and effects that you can see. You can hold down Shift and sort of fly around like this. I'm going to die. Okay, so you can look at the various different special effects and how they go about being created. And that's kind of the gist of what we were looking at here. And you can see the graphics are quite nice. That's definitely one thing Core has going for it. And I guess one thing Unreal Engine has going for it as well. You can see various different things in action here. Now let me just exit out. So hit escape. We'll leave gameplay mode here. And now you can see kind of Core in action. You got over here client context. That is where the player himself exists. Those are things that are local to him. Other things will be networked or, for example. So we can see here the various different examples we're seeing here. So weapon example, we'll click in here and we can find the equipment spawner. And then boom, there's, you'll jump to it. Or let's do a special effect. So let's go. Material example. We have various different material examples. A hologram. Go here, we can go preview the hologram in action. You'll see there it is right there. It's got various different effects or properties attached to it, just like your typical component-based game engine. What you're normally going to do is find a lot of these things are implemented via a material of some kind. So let me just find over here, rendering. There you can see the material that's attached. There's an override color making that pinkish material, so we can customize that like so, and then we're going to get a different result, or we can go in straight out, edit it, and you're going to get more fine-tuned control over the materials. Now, you may be wondering, okay, what about bringing in my own content, creating my own materials, or bringing in my own models? And the truth of the matter is you can't really do that. You're stuck with the building blocks they gave you, but they do give you a heck of a lot of building blocks. So let's actually look at this a little bit more from scratch, from a new game development perspective. So go back here to the main menu. I'm not going to save what I did there, and we're going to just go ahead and we're going to create a new game. So you got an option of completely new, or you can use one of their frameworks. Their frameworks give you kind of like a starting point. So if I want to make a deathmatch or King of the Hill style game, or do I just want to go ahead and create an empty project, or we can come back here, set on back, and we'll just do it as an empty project. And we'll call this my, oops, I got caps lock on, demo project. All right, so there we go. Go ahead and create it. And now we've started with basically a blank and empty world here. So you got here your game settings, your spawn point. This is where you spawn into the world. If you want to see things in action, hit V. It toggles gizmo visibility, by the way. We've got a third-person camera there, and then here's where the client context exists. Again, client context is what makes things happen only on that client's end. That'll be relevant later on. We have our default sky and a sky dome attached to it. You see it's up here. At any particular time, you can hit advanced settings and see more details about it. We can control a lot of things about our sky, so we can change the overall tint of our sky and so on. There, your basic sky up there. We've got our floor in our world going on right now. What I'm going to do now is spawn in, say, some terrain. We come up here, terrain creator. We could create a new terrain. You got a bunch of different options here. You can create circular worlds, desert dunes, and so on. I'm just going to create a big flat terrain, and we'll generate it. So we just created a 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer terrain. And you can see it goes for well, I would say miles and miles, but I guess kilometers and kilometers. And then once you've got your train in here, you can basically come in here and start sculpting it. You've got options standard that they're very sensitive out of the box, by the way, but so you can shape up and down. You can change the sensitivity or the strength right here, which I probably should do because I'm basically making idiotic terrain at the moment. So there, also, by the way, we also have an undo system, which I guess I'll use right now. So here you can see a little bit more. Okay, I got it. 0 might not be enough. There you see. So I don't know why that default terrain is like super. Oops, I just put, hang on, let me undo that part. I just put our spawn point underground, which probably isn't what we want to do. All right, so you can start shaping out your terrain like so. You have various different terrain tools here. So if you want to come in here, flatten, trim, level things off, you can. You want to smooth things out, you've got that option there as well. Pretty straightforward tools there. Then we get into kind of the painting mode. We can go ahead and apply a new terrain material here. So we've got, mind you, we still have our floor here, which we could probably get rid of. Here you can see we got our default color. We can switch out the materials on it. I'll stick with the defaults here. We start mixing them together like so, like so. There you go. So there's kind of how you can create terrain. We come back here again, sculpt, and let's just drop the ground off a bit. So surface, and we'll do down instead. And now we're going to go into the ground. Here, let's move off our default floor. All right, so there we go. We just created a bit of an underground cliff area that's going on here. I'm going to grab our spawner, and let's just move that onto land that we've created. All right, there we go. And let's get above ground. And that's where we're going to spawn into the world. So if I go ahead and hit play, boom, we drop in there. Once again, my default avatar comes into play, and we can start navigating around our world. Now, what you're going to probably start doing at this point is dropping things into this world. So we've got a bunch of core content, and the core content is important because you cannot import yourself, at least not right now. And from the way they describe it, not ever, I'm doubting. So you kind of have to either build things, compound them, make your own shapes out of their shapes. But if there's not in their inventory here, you're kind of on your own. But you do have most of the default primitives you should expect here. So we can just basically start creating things by populating things into the world. So for example, let's go back here. Where's my spawn point? There it is. All right. So in front of my spawn point, let's hire in I think there should be a fire hydrant in here. Fire. Oh, I don't want sounds. There we go. Fire hydrant. So there we go. Drop a fire hydrant into the scene. And that's kind of how it starts going. You'll notice as I'm dropping this guy in, it's got its own properties down here. We can put physics on objects. We can put debris physics as long as it's in our local context, etc. But this is just basically start placing things into the world. Let's go back here. Go back to props, for example. We also have tile sets available for like, the pieces that will slot together and so on. Let's go to fantasy props. Grab us a chest. Drop a chest into the world. And there you see it. Uses the standard QWERT for manipulation. You can have it automatically. You'll notice it's snapping to the terrain as I create things. So for example, I create this bench, it snaps to the terrain. If I go down here and create this, it's snapping to the terrain as I go, which is also very, very nice. Now you might be wondering, okay, that's how you instance things into the scene. How do you actually, do gameplay logic here? And the answer is ultimately Lua. Now don't get me wrong, I don't have a ton of experience with this guy at all, but let me just show you the process here. So I'm going to come here, we're going to go out of 3D objects, and we're going to find instead an entity. So I need gameplay, I think it's a gameplay object, trigger. All right, so I'm going to drop a trigger into the world, and this is an object that when I walk through it, I'm going to trigger it. Now I'm going to go ahead, I'll make that guy a little bit bigger. So let's make this guy a spherical trigger instead, and let's triple its size. So there, it'd be very easy to hit. So there we go. So now I've got my trigger in the world. Now you'll see it showed up right here. There is my trigger as defined. By the way, V toggles the widget visibility once again. So now that I've got my trigger there, I may want to go ahead and apply some script logic to it. There's a couple ways I could do this. I could just right click it and say create, and then create a new script, or I can actually come up here to the tools and say script generator, and then you'll see here, this is how you can kind of start kicking off pre-made scripts for you. So we've got here ability scripts, animation scripts, events for binding, pressed, released, button pressed, and so on. And the one I'm interested here is a trigger overlap. So here you're seeing it's creating Lua code for you for on begin overlap, on end overlap, on interacted, and it's going to connect all those events up with the world. And that's kind of good for us. Okay, so we're good to go. We'll create that script, and we'll call it my triggered script. All right, so there we go. So now we have a script in the world. Now you're noticing this first line of code is saying this trigger is assign it to the script's parent. So that's important. So this is where the hierarchy comes in. I'm just going to go ahead down here. We should have our new script. It's over here. So what I'm going to do is just parent that to the trigger right there. All right. So there we go. Our triggered script is going to fire when our trigger is hit. Right now, it doesn't really do a whole lot. We'll open that up. By the way, you can set up your own external editor, which is good because this editor is kind of bare bones. There's no code completion or anything else like that. And I'm going to do print to, I say print on screen. I always get that wrong. Hello world. All right, so find out if that works. So there is kind of how your coding process works. Our code should be saved and good to go. I'm gonna find out now if I made an error. I did. Okay, I'm gonna see if that was print to screen. Let's try that one more time. To screen. By the way, there is actually a script debugger built in here as well. All right, so we're good. Let's go ahead and run. And then boom, you can see over on the left-hand side, you see the hello world just popped up. Here, I'll walk through it again. You can see it. So look below where it says preview mode, and there's our script being triggered. And now we're going to like deal with another object in the scene. So I'm going to create a local sound. So this is going to be under the client context. So right here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back to the core content right here. And you can see here we have options for audio. We got a ton of different music effects. So here we got upbeat dance music club, or I don't know. Let's find something in here a little bit fun. So here's a gunshot. Actually, let me find something a little bit more punchy. Big hammer. Okay, that's punchy. All right, so we're going to take big hammer, and we're going to drop that into the client context. All right, so this is only going to occur on the local person's computer at this point in time. It's a local only sound, and I'm going to rename it to hammer. All right, so we now have a sound that connected to the client context called hammer. Now I'm going to head on back over here, and I'm going to make a bunch of typos. So let's go into our edit our script here, and then when we say hello world, what we're going to do is say world.get object by name, and I think I called it hammer, and then we're going to call the play method on it, like so. Now let's see if I screwed up this code or not. All right, over we go. And I screwed up the code. Attempted to call a nil value get object by name. Okay, 1 second. I'm screwing something up. Okay, definitely my error there. It was find, not get. So find object by name, plus in hammer, and then play. You can also get objects basically by going to your parent and navigating through the hierarchy of things. And hierarchies are very important in this. It's kind of how you structure your code altogether. By the way, while I'm here, I also show you, you can dock windows anywhere you want on the screen. So you can basically dock it over. I don't know why it's not working right now, but you have the ability to dock into various different spots. These tabs can all be moved around, dock to different locations, and so on. So you can highly customize the user interface. And that code one should have been dockable as well. I'm not sure what was going on there. But now that we've got that proper code in, you'll see here, we run over here, and there's a hammer bang noise going on as well. There. So there is how you can go ahead and trigger things. Over here on the right, you see a little bit of a performance profiler going on, so you can judge how your code is doing. And that is kind of the basics of how you start building your engine. So your code itself is done using the Lua programming language. The nice thing about all of that is there is good documentation over on their website. So we have the API is completely documented. It's broken down into a number of, so you've got global objects like UI, world, etc. that have a lot of the global functionality in them. Otherwise, you've got a good set of documentation for everything going on here. So here's like UI, world, game, etc. And then you've got all your built-in objects that you're working with here, such as event listeners, damage, the player object, player settings, and so on, are all available here. Things again are organized into hierarchies over. Let's head on back over here. Over here, so you can build hierarchies of, so the trigger, the script is owned then by trigger, for example, and then accessing your parent was just simply a matter of trigger.parent, and you can kind of do each thing. Also, each game object, which is a class over here, so core object right here, has the ability to navigate through its children, and has a group set in things for like getting the position of things in the world and so on. So you see here, you can get the children of the game object, and you create these hierarchies of objects, and they all kind of work together. And then you can take those hierarchies and save them as prefabs. And you're going to notice over here, if we come back here, you're going to have a lot of things that they've built together here. So we've got a ton of stuff built in out of the box. The only downside, again, is you just don't have the ability to bring in your own stuff right now. I believe all you can really bring in is your game's thumbnail, but there is a lot of stuff out of the box. We got post-processing effects here. We got tons of materials ready to go with. All of these, again, are customizable. So when you go into that material itself, there's a lot that you can do with it. So we could easily go in here and create, you know, a cube object or a physical object, like say this staircase here, and then we can customize that guy. We can go in and apply a material to it. So here we can go, and then we go here, or we can create a customized material. So let's go here. It's an animated glowing hex. There we go. And now we can actually go ahead and customize that guy. So it's now a custom version of it, and then we can override the attributes that we want on here. So we've got this gradient. We could play with the gradient color, so we could change that secondary color out to, you know, red instead. I don't know why I'm getting orange instead of red. There we go. So there, now we got red in the background. And then that's kind of a way of, you know, as long as what you've got works with them in the materials and settings that they've done, there's quite a bit you can do here. And you've also got the ability to set up smart materials that will automatically follow the UVs of your objects and everything else. But if you don't have the model you need and you can't build it from the pieces they've got there, or you don't have the sound you need out of the box, you're kind of at their mercy. So your game is only going to be as capable as what they provide you. And then the downside here with Core is you're stuck in their platform as well. If you go to their FAQs on their website, they're basically saying that they intend to potentially look at supporting to Target's mobile and Steam. But for now, this is basically intended to be in their world. So you're kind of playing in their world, in their toolbox, using their monetization system and their game portal. You know, it's not any different than, say, Roblox is now, but you do, of course, have the limitations that you are going to hit are the limitations of their engine tool set. But at the same time, I do have to admit, the tools themselves are very polished. The performance is quite nice. The built-in content is quite large, especially for an alpha version. And even the programming model isn't bad. There is the ability to hook up to external editor. The built-in code editor right now, this sucks. So hopefully we get something a little bit better there, something with some code completion or something else. But you do, again, have the option of hooking up an external editor. And then when you're done, you want to go ahead and save what you've done. You can go ahead and publish it out. Now, one of the cool things that they do have here, though, is community content. So although you can't necessarily bring things in from outside, you can build your own objects compound out of the materials that they provide. So yeah, let's bring that in. Yeah, sure, we'll save. And then, so now it's imported in the Halo battle. Oh, is it a scene, though? That's kind of useless if that's the case. And then we can instantiate into the scene. Let's see if it actually worked. There you go. So there is our object that we brought in from a third party that they did. It has sound effects attached to it. It's got a special effect attached to it. I don't actually know what all it will do, but you see here it's got visual effects applied to it, such as a muzzle flash, trail template, and so on. Let me see if I can actually go find this guy in the world. I could have probably put it closer, eh? Anyways, I think I put it right over here. All right, I didn't. All right, that's not good. I could move it over, but you can get the idea. You can build these compound objects out of out of the pieces that are provided. You've got the ability to, string together all of these various different special effects and so on. And yeah, that's kind of, it in a nutshell. Again, there is a ton more you can do. This is the kind of thing that you're going to take weeks to months to master. There is a good amount of content out of the box, and there is the ability, once again, for to be able to use and consume consumer content. And it kind of gives you an idea of what people are able to create out of the building blocks that they've been given. And you can do some pretty, so you need a windmill. You can create a windmill out of the, multiple different pieces of stuff that they've got here. And then you can actually even build it together. So it's got a hierarchy of components there that will have, a script that controls the spinning, for example, and so on. Yeah, I guess that's it. So that is Core. It's a very interesting project. It's going to be interesting where it goes. Again, it's just in open alpha right now. It is well documented. It does have a good amount of stuff in there. And if you want to jump in, there's some pre-created content for you to get going with. They have their own world hub that you can jump in. I think eventually the idea is you go into the world hub and it can link off to other places in the world, and that you can kind of jump in automatically. Yeah. So that's Core. It's Core Plaza. So that's what I was talking about. It's just kind of like this play hub portal and you can link together to other locations, etc. It'd be interesting to see what Core turns into. You know, do we have another Roblox or Second Life style competitor here? Does this turn more into like more of a game creation kit where you can actually compile your game and run it on various different platforms? It'll be interesting to see where Manticore actually take Core. But that's it for now. Let me know what you think of Core in general and the idea of games where you make games. I guess the other one I should have mentioned was Dreams, but hey, I didn't. All right, so let me know what you think of those kind of game creation games and what you think of Core in general in the comments down below, and I will talk to you all later. Goodbye.